A very good day to you. I hope you had yourself an amazing Monday. This is the Blackout Fire Updates with me, Dimori. Of course, I'm going to be telling you about everything that was happening throughout the whole of Africa. But our main focus today is a story that I saw. I saw this story last week on, let me find the story real quick. But just hints up, we're going to be talking about how Africa is used as the world's guinea pig, especially Nigeria and Kenya, and Uganda. Those are the three countries that are used, and you might add Ghana there. They are used as the world's guinea pig. I mean, if you want to do any experiment that requires humans to be part of it, then all you need to do is go to Africa. So this was somebody who sent this screenshot. It was a woman who just gave birth, and she says, just after I got from the labor room, a nurse came and put a drip on me for a solution that looked like iodine, claiming that I had lost lots of blood. The solution was supposed to help me gain more blood. I tried to protest, but she said that they do that to all mothers who've just had babies. So mark this: in this hospital, for every woman who gives birth, they are administered this drip, this solution that they are claiming is iodine. They are saying that it is to help the women gain more blood. So it goes on to say, then suddenly several nurses came with around 8 people. I was concerned and asked if there was something wrong with me. They said no, and they were very keen on the flow of the drip, the time taken, and if I experienced any allergic reaction. After 30 minutes, they gave me a 6-page document folded, just indicating somewhere for me to sign. I refused to sign, that I needed to read it first after I've rested. So the woman refused to sign the document that she was given, and said that she was only going to sign it after she's read it, and she was going to read it after she had rested. They then called in more reinforcement to talk to me on why I should sign. I read the document, a very long document on research and trial of folic acid in some third world countries funded by Bill Gates. I got angry, asked them why they didn't tell the patients first before injecting them. They then gave me tablets to take daily for 6 months. After discovering that they were giving all women in the hospital when they were too tired to read or listen to them, and dropped women in their homes so that they can keep track, I took the drugs, though never intended to take them. So in short, they give every woman that gives birth in this hospital is taken through the same process where a drip is administered on them. It is a research trial by the Bill Gates Foundation, and they are trying folic acid in women in third world countries. After that, they give you some tablets that you're supposed to take for 6 months. Then they drop you home. In Africa, in Kenya, they drop you home after you've given birth. Do you know how special you have to be for that to be done to you? So the reason they drop you home is so that they can mark your home and they can keep checking up on you. After discovering, so she goes on to say, this is happening throughout Western, as someone called from Bungoma County Referral Hospital to check on the progress of the tablets. So the same is happening throughout the whole of Western Province, where if a woman gives birth, they are taken through this research by Bill Gates. They are administered to a drip, and unknowingly they do this when a woman is too tired for them to read and for them to even argue. That is immediately after you've given birth, just relieved that you've given birth. Then that is when they administer this to you. And they decided to check the comments on that post and see whether Kenyans are actually nuanced, or they actually know what is happening and what is going on. And the first comment that I saw, from the comments, you can easily tell that people are starting to wake up, and you can see the nuance. Even though it still should be something that should bring a lot of uproar, that the government has allowed such a thing to happen, where our women are being used as guinea pigs. And Africa is the world's guinea pig. And this is just one of the examples. which we're going to come back later too. We can talk about so many other things where Africa has been used as guinea pigs. For example, let us look at this debate that happened in Parliament a few months ago when Bill Gates attempted to push GMOs in Kenya.
University staff. Good evening, Vice Chancellor, Deans of faculties, university staff, students, and distinguished guests. I'm excited to be here at the University of Nairobi. This is my first time in Africa since the pandemic, and even longer since I've been in Kenya. It's an overdue trip, but I was looking forward to it. It's so important to meet people doing the real work, to go to the health clinics, to go to the farms, and understand how people are dealing with today's challenges.
Even in the United States, where Bill Gates is coming from, this is a very contentious issue. And if it is so good, then he needs to go and sell the GMOs in his own country.
Yep. That is a Kenyan MP. Is it Omanga? No, not Omanga. Millie Atiambu talking about the GMOs are so good. Why not start selling them in your country before bringing them to Africa? So I started with this because when you talk about how Africa has been used as the world's guinea pig in doing all types of experiments, you want to do an experiment, then the best place for you to start that is in Africa. So when I talk about that, you can look at it from so many angles. One of the angles that you have to look at it in is not just being used as guinea pigs in order for them to come up with research on, for them to do their research, but sometimes even as sacrificial pigs, if there's such a term, where they've already done their research and they know that this thing is supposed to is dangerous and can kill somebody, but they bring it to Africa so that you can consume the same end. An example being the GMO case. I said Africa has a food problem. That is true. People die of hunger every now and then in Africa. That is true. But then how about you look at what is the cause? What has been causing the death, the people to die of hunger? Is it a seed problem? Is it a production problem? Is it a priority problem? It's a priority problem. It's not a seed problem. Africa does not have a problem with seeds. When I say a seed problem, I mean it's not an issue of crops getting diseases. It's not an issue of not having enough. It's not an issue, a production issue of not having enough resources to produce. It's a priority issue of us producing the wrong things, the wrong plant, the wrong crops, planting the wrong plants. When I say the wrong plants, I mean instead of us focusing on food we can eat, we focus on food we can export. And in the current financial architecture in Africa, even the food we export, we get peanuts for it. So it's not going to help us at the end of the day.
We cannot be used as guinea pigs.
What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy, Go Black to Africa. I want to share with you this video that even in Africa, Kenya to be exact, are arguing about GMOs. Those who are working in the parliament, there are those that are for and those are against. But listen to this, it's quite interesting in how they perceive GMO products. Check it out.
When we reach a time when we have no maize in this country, we don't have to import GMO. We can import maize from Uganda. We can import maize from Tanzania. We can import maize from parts of the African countries that grow good maize, madam.
The millers are trying to blackmail farmers that we want to import GMOs so that farmers can bring down their prices. It is wrong. The market forces should be able to control. The farmers should be able to sell now their maize at around 6,000 per 90 kilogram. If that is the price, we'll be able to mop out all the maize that is available there.
To the issue of GMOs. Madam Speaker, one of the members when they were speaking earlier was saying that most of us are speaking out of conjecture. Madam Speaker, I'm glad this House has people who are very well educated. My master's I did on intellectual property rights on plant genetic resources. And I can tell you one of the main things I dealt with was GMOs. And I can tell you that even in the United States, where Bill Gates is coming from, this is a very contentious issue. And if it is so good, then he needs to go and sell the GMOs in his own country. We cannot be used as guinea pigs for things that we don't know yet, and the impact as this country. We are already dealing with a high impact of cases of cancer. We don't know if these GMOs are going to cause cancer, or if actually they're the ones contributing to cancer, because somehow people still find a way of bringing them in. So, Madam Speaker, let us not use our children and our people as guinea pigs. We are not saying we should completely outlaw, but let us test, let us research, and once it is proven, I want to even...
Yep, goes back to what I was talking about, naivety. Africans are too, I don't even know the word to use. How would somebody bring you something and tell you it's good and you take their word for it? How about you do your own research? How about you? I mean, we have enough educated people in Africa, right? We have good doctors in Kenya, don't we? That is the reason why even Australia is poaching doctors from Kenya. We have good doctors in Nigeria. We have good agronomists. We have good scientists in Africa. We have enough resources to set up good research labs that we can use to research, do some good research and actually determine whether whatever they say is true when they say that this is good for you. How about you do not just buy their word for it, you do your own research and establish. But of course that is not going to happen, because they are not going to allow it to happen, because they know that whatever they are selling to us, whatever idea they are giving to us is not a good thing. GMOs are not good. And we do not need them in Africa, because we have our own seeds, we have our own species, and you know that do not even require fertilizers at some point. Kid was telling me yesterday that Maria was in her home village and they don't even use fertilizers, they get bump of harvest. We have fertile soil, good climate, good rains, good, I mean, it's time for Africans to actually stop the naivety and start looking beyond, go beyond believing to knowing. Not just believing when people tell you that these new seeds are better than the old ones. How about you do some research for yourself, as this MP is saying?
And thank Dr. Nyikal that from a health perspective, where you are not sure, where research is giving divergent views, avoid. And I think it's Honorable Beatrice that talked about, we have just dealt with COVID. We don't know where COVID came from. For all we know, COVID could have been generated from GMOs. If you actually, because we don't have time, if I actually was able to read for you even how this GMO is generated, I don't even understand how we can even be sitting here thinking about it. And Madam Speaker, there's also one thing that people have talked about here, which I want to stress, that we want to kill our farmers. In India, when these issues came, farmers were lighting themselves and dying because their livelihoods were being threatened. Why? Because of intellectual property rights. Once these seeds are produced, you cannot regrow the seeds. You must buy the seeds all the time.
Yep. So they don't just want to control this one cycle, they want you dependent on them. I don't even know how people do not see this. In the traditional, not the traditional, let me just say in the seeds that we used to, the natural seeds, the natural strains, the natural species. It's nature for things to reproduce, because that's how they are able to avoid extinction. That is why every other organism gives birth, reproduces in whichever way it does. Some through cell division, others through birth, others through laying eggs, others through spreading their seeds. It's nature's way that every single organism tries to survive, tries not to get extinct by reproducing. It's the way nature operates. But now here comes new seeds that do not produce seeds. Here comes new seeds that do not produce seeds. So I give you seeds, you go plant, you harvest, you sell to me, then you come back to me looking for seeds. That means if in a year, 1 year, at one point in time, we disagree and I do not give you seeds, you die. Because you have crops that you can't regrow. You have crops that you have to depend on me again for me to give you the seeds to regrow. So that means this happens if we actually are naive enough to adopt this. If we become stupid enough to follow this and go the GMO way, then what that will mean is in 10, 15 years, this is going to be used as a blackmail. The war is going to be more now on the food security side, because would you want to get into a war with somebody who supplies you with seeds? I mean, if they say they're not giving us seeds for a year, then we die of hunger because we do not have any other seed. And the fact is, if we go the GMO way, then the traditional seeds, the natural seeds, are going to get extinct because nobody is going to plant them anymore. And now you saw the government talking about it's going to control what is going to be. Man, how do we not see through this? I don't know.
In order to plant, what does that mean? That all our farmers will be buying seeds from the US all the time, from other countries all the time?
Madam Speaker, it is important that even if, for whatever reason, we have to import maize, it cannot possibly be GMO maize. We have maize from our neighboring countries. We are speaking about regional integration, Uganda, and other countries, Madam Speaker, in East Africa that do have maize. We can import maize that is not GMO, Madam Speaker.
There was a ban in 2010 of GMO issued by the then minister. I think it was Bet Mugo. That ban has subsisted for all these years until probably 2019, when there's a partial lifting in respect of BT cotton. Of course, it's telling that when the new Kenya Kwanza government came into place, they lifted the order that was initiated, that was placed in 2010.
The GMO was banned through a Gazette notice. Hardly 2 months in office, the new government has decided to lift the ban, and before we even blink, there is maize that is coming at the port. Madam Speaker, there was no public participation, and we did not see any gazettement of the same. 2, we are aware as a country that there was bumper harvest, mainly in the Rift Valley, and even within my constituency, which is also a breadbasket in Kabondo Kasipul, we had maize. Madam Speaker, it is unfair. I would say that it is cold and being insensitive to the needs of our farmers to import maize at the time when they have maize in the store and not give them an opportunity to sell their maize at a fair price. Yes, it could be expensive, but why is the maize expensive? The maize is expensive because of the cost of production. Fertilizers were going for over 6,000 shillings, we are all aware of. We are also aware that the fuel price had gone up to plow our fields. With all these things combined, I would have expected the government to be sensitive and allow the farmers to sell the maize first before they even think of importing the maize. I would recommend that 1, they return the maize from wherever it came from, or 2, should it find its way in the market, Madam Speaker, this maize should be clearly labeled as GMO.
So fast forward, the maize got into the market, was never labeled, and was consumed.
So that the Kenyans can decide that they are buying the GMO or they are not buying, and properly segregated in the supermarket to show that these are all GMO and these are not, so that Kenyans can make an informed decision when purchasing the maize. Thank you very much. Once again, I support, and I want us as a country to take care of our people.
Being the chairman of agriculture does not make me, the knowledge I have, disappear from my head. It doesn't also deny me the opportunity to tell Kenyans the truth. And the truth is that BT maize is not, it's not in any case anything. It is a specific type of maize which Americans have eaten for 30 years. Are we trying to say that Kenyans have better, they have more special lives than Americans, than Australians, than
So this is the problem that we have. This is I had to laugh at. Sometimes some things you just look at them and laugh. This is the problem that we have as Africans. This man was told that the maize coming is what Americans have been consuming for the last 30 years. I don't know how true that is. I want you to look at Americans, the ones that you're praising. Look at the obesity levels there. Look at how sick those people are. Look at the cancer. Look at the diabetes. Look at the lifestyle diseases. And compare an American right now and an American 40 years ago. Because, it's such people are the problem, and it gets deeper because now the people in the villages actually believe in them because they expect that such a person, he is the leader, he is an MP, they expect that such a person is has a broader mind. So, of course, they are going to believe whatever this one is going to say because the ones in the village are now more ignorant than this one. You have to look at some of these things and just laugh.
Canadians, if there's a country that protects its people, those countries protect their people. We are talking of BT. Is the difference between GMO and BT maize. Genetic engineering is a branch of science, a branch of biotechnology. Biotechnology is the broader sense of that science, of the broader spectrum, and genetic engineering, in a narrow sense, has to do with transfer of genes from one organism to another. The type of gene that can move from one organism to another is normally called a recombinant gene. It has to have that characteristic of being able to combine with the genes of that other organism. Honorable Speaker, GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, are all organisms, all forms of organisms, whether animals or plants, which have had their gene composition changed. All of them. Honorable Speaker, there is no evidence anywhere in the world, anywhere in any discourse, any scientific discourse or otherwise, to show that all GMOs are dangerous to human or dangerous to the environment. In this particular case, we are talking of a GMO called BT maize. And I will now my discussion specifically to the BT maize. BT maize is maize that has been made to protect itself through genetic transformation from the stalk borer called.
And you ask this man, then why does Africa need genetic? Because he can go to hell with all his rhetoric. We all know that it's genetically modified maize. It's GMO maize that we were talking about. Why does Africa need, a maize that is protecting itself from this and that? We've always had enough to feed ourselves up to until colonization came and policies changed, and now we were required, and now we were coerced, we were forced, we were lied into producing non-essential crops that we cannot consume. Look at Africa's food problem again. I'll say this again. Look at Africa's food problem. It in no way points towards seed quality issues. It points toward priority issues. It points toward priority issues. if Africa was to actually decide to produce food for consumption, look at Uganda. When was the last time you heard people dying of hunger in Uganda? It might be poor, but they have enough to eat. Speaking as somebody who's been there. So I do not get it. And as I said, this is part of the problem we have in Africa. I mean, it's one thing to be ignorant, but it's another thing to be educated and ignorant. Because to me, that equates to stupidity. I mean, I would understand such type of reasoning from, let's say, a dropout. But this man claims to be an agronomist and standing there lying to people that genetically modified food is the solution. Is it really?
Maize stalk borer. This protection has been brought about by extracting a gene from a bacteria that is found in the soil. The soil outside there, Honorable Speaker, has that bacteria. The bacteria is called Bacillus thuringiensis. This particular bacteria has the characteristic of killing the stalk borer. The stalk borer is the larval form in the stages of development of these insects. There is the larval stage, the worm stage, the one that basically passes when balls.
I've even gotten tired of listening to this man. But as we all know, in nature's way of operating, organisms are meant to reproduce. Any organism that does not reproduce, that cannot give seeds after it has been, anything, any plant, animal, bacteria, virus that cannot reproduce gets extinct. Any organism that cannot give seeds naturally is going against nature's way. That is a fact, and that is something that we cannot dispute. Anyways, as we come to the end of Monday updates, unfortunately I'm out of time. We're talking about how Africa is used as the world's guinea pig. We did not even exhaust, just ran out of time. We are going to come and look at some of the experiments that are happening in Africa at the moment. Some that people don't even know. For example, the digital ID is getting tested in Kenya. For example, in Uganda, they are testing the new HIV drug. In Nyanza, they are testing the new world order UBI, Universal Basic Income. We're going to look at all that next time. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. It's always a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Much love.